Hi guys, how's it going? Welcome back to All for United. This is the player rating show. Yes, this is where we dive in to individual player performances after every game. Usually it's me and Temi. Last week it was me and Joe, and now neither of them are here, and now it's Barry. I don't know if it's just me that they're trying to avoid here, or whether it's the show, or whether it's just coincidence. I don't know. But Barry, thank you for joining me on such short notice. How are you doing?
Yeah, you're welcome. Hi, Karthik. Good to be here. I guess I've come off the bench to replace.
Yeah, I suppose it's positive.
A typical Solskjaer move, a 90th minute substitution.
Exactly. So yeah, guys, get in the comments. If you're new to this show, we'll go through every player who started the game for United and give them a rating out of 10, and then obviously the subs, and at the end we'll give them a manager's rating. So this is also your show, so get in the comments, make sure to give us your rating as we discuss each player, and we'll have a good discussion. And make sure to like the video while you're here, because then Ben will let me keep doing the show. That's how I start every show. Right then, we'll dive straight into it. Barry, David De Gea, what did you make of him today?
Yeah, I thought, in fact, he had very, very little to do. The City keeper had less to do than he had, but he had very, very little to do. But when he had to do something, there was the shot that he saved from Mahrez, which was an important, that was probably the best chance of the game. So he rose to that. And I remember him going down to his right, making a save, I think, from Rodri in the second half. And what I quite liked is I saw him come out his line, come off his line a couple of times, and he even came out the box and headed the ball on one occasion. Unlike him. So in terms of giving him a rating, he did absolutely nothing wrong. Mm-hmm. So in a player who does nothing wrong, does he get 10 out of 10? No, you can't give him 10 out of 10 because he didn't do anything spectacular. But he didn't do anything wrong. So it's a very, very subjective rating that one gives him. But I think it was a pretty bland performance all round. So I don't know, I'd give him probably a 7 on the night, but he didn't do anything wrong.
Yeah, Brown Knight agrees with you. We gives you an 8, near enough the same. You usually, when me and Joe did the show, when we sort of got similar ratings in the comments, we thought, yeah, this is going well. Means we're not going to have to fight with anyone. But I do sense there's a player that we will argue about, but I'll get into that later. Yeah, I'm going to go with a 7 on De Gea as well. I thought, yeah, like you said, nothing bad, nothing amazing. He just did his job and he wasn't really tested. So. And certainly when he is tested, I think he's really switched on a bit more. I think Dean Henderson's pressure on him is really starting to show. Yeah. It's beginning to show that the competition means something, and this is across all positions, which is the case for another player, which we'll go and discuss. But before that, right back, Aaron Busaka.
A solid game defensively, but I cannot recall our fullbacks getting down the flanks once during the game. So defensively good, offensively not good, but that's his game. Yeah. So I thought he shackled Sterling pretty well. He made some good tackles. He didn't really get beaten, but a little bit of a bland performance. And I think I'm quite a harsh critic. So on the night, I'll give him a 6.
6, interesting. Brown Knight says also an 8. To be fair, someone agrees with you. There you go. So you know you're doing all right there. A 6 there as well. I do agree with you in that he wasn't going forward enough, but I think that might be an instruction thing. Defensively, as you say, good performance. I think I'd give him a 7 just because I thought the entire back four played well today. I think to give them anything below a 5 would be harsh, and below a 6 maybe a bit harsh as well. Brown Knight says, remember that one move in the first half down the flank? I think he's talking about when we played out from the back. That was a lovely little move where he plays the 1-2 with Mctominay. That was good. Yeah, I agree with you there. So that's a 6 from Barry and a 7 from me. Victor Lindelof. Bloody hell, there's a big storm over there.
Thunderstorm. Yeah, thunderstorm.
Jesus Christ.
Get those in Manchester? I don't think so.
No, it's
all the time.
Just rain, yeah.
Yeah. So I thought Lindelof had a good game. He made some very good tackles and interceptions. He was good in the box. And in fact, probably our best chance was when he went up for a corner and he headed in. Mctominay was at the post he couldn't get onto it to get that ball in. But I thought he had a solid game, Lindelof. And I would give him. Are we allowed to give half marks, by the way?
Oh, I don't think I've ever seen it happen so far, but sure, go for it.
I'll give Victor a 7 on the night. I thought he had an assured game. He had a good game.
Yep. Comment what you're saying then. 8 from Greb13. Brown Knight's gone for a 7 as well. Barry, you're on a roll here. I don't think you've given any ridiculous ratings so far.
No, there won't be any.
A good debut from you so far. Good substitute appearance. I'm going to give Lindelof an 8 because I thought he was the best of our defenders. He was very, very, very strong, very solid. Didn't make a lot of defensive mistakes until possibly the end of the game where I thought everyone was a bit tired. But I thought Lindelof was very, very solid today. And a very good question here from Brown Knight. Is that a Real Madrid crest to your right? What is that?
It is indeed.
Why have you got a Real Madrid crest?
I'll tell you the story. Can I tell you the story of that quickly?
Go for it. Why not?
My good friend is Carlos Queiroz.
Oh.
And remember that Carlos went to coach Real Madrid for a season.
Yep.
And we went to visit him in Madrid.
Mm.
And in fact, I'm going to shift this. If you look in the background there, that is a Real Madrid training shirt that Carlos signed and gave to me.
Oh, wow.
So this is just in a little nook where I keep this computer because when the weather's bad, my Man United room, the reception's not so good. So this is a visit to Real Madrid, but I can assure you my loyalties are in no way divided. From my friend Carlos.
I'll have to speak to you later on about Carlos or organising some kind of collaboration. That's a wasted opportunity, I think. Harry Maguire.
Yeah, Maguire, good game from Harry. I'd like to see Harry, I know it's not his job, but I'd like to see Harry scoring more goals because he gets into such good positions for these set pieces, yet he's always close, but not scoring enough goals. I realise that's not his role. He was solid at the back. He put in a couple of good tackles. His distribution was not as good as it has been in recent games. He gave the ball away a couple of times. But I'd give Harry a 7 on the night as well.
Yeah, I'd go with a 7 as well. I thought when Harry has a bad game, we all tend to point it out, and social media tends to show a spotlight on his mistakes and sometimes even blame him for things that aren't his fault. But I think today he had not a very good game, but he had a good game, and I thought we should praise him for that. So I'll give him a 7.
I think defensively we were much more solid tonight and much more organised. And what I enjoyed, I should have mentioned this when I was speaking about Lindelof, is at times when Busaka was a little bit out of position, Lindelof covered that slot very well.
Mm-hmm.
So defensively we were a far better unit.
Yep. We've seen the first half point given, so I assume they're now allowed. 7.5. Fred Woodward, who we've already established is not related to Ed Woodward, thank goodness, is an 8 out of 10. 100% of his tackles and made a few vital interceptions. Is that 100% tackles thing an accurate stat? Someone find out and let me know. One of our defense's weaknesses for sure, not enough goals. What?
Yeah, I alluded to the fact that Maguire gets into fabulous positions at set pieces, at corners. But them into goals.
Yeah, there is a mad stat. I think it was in the last league game that we played. We had I think it was 52 corners, and we've not scored from a single one of them.
Wow.
But that's just a terrible stat. Harry Maguire 8. That's a 7 + 1 for what he did to Sterling. Okay, fair enough. This will be an interesting talking point because I think this was one of our better players and another player who's benefiting from competition, Luke Shaw.
Yeah. Luke Shaw was my man of the match. I'd give Luke Shaw an 8 on the night.
Okay.
When City brought Torres on, he was a threat down their right flank, down our left side. And I thought Shaw marshalled him particularly well. And during the game, he made some very, very good tackles. He looked very, very solid. His distribution was reasonable. A very, very solid game. And he looked far better than he did in midweek. Well, the entire defense looked far better. But very solid game from him, and he would be my man of the match.
Yeah. What was the rating you gave him again?
8.
8. Okay.
Yeah.
We're seeing 9s in the comments from Brown Knight, Greb. Brown Knight says Fred Woodward is related to Fred. Right then.
These guys are very lenient, man. They're very, very liberal in their rate.
Yeah. You're going to see a shock from me because I have to praise Luke Shaw. He was very good today.
Yeah.
I'm going to give him an 8 because I don't think he was quite our man of the match, but I think he was one of our better performers. And in a game like this where he's expected to do more defending than going forward, I think that suits him more, and he looks much better. And I think there's a big thing to say that Alex Telles has provided that little boost for him to improve and sort of almost show that, if Telles is your attacking option, I have to be your defensive option, and I will make that my main game. And I think that's what he's doing. And also, a good point to make is his set pieces today. His corners were very good.
I'm pleased you added that. In fact, I saw you mention that on Twitter, and I responded to that. His corners were excellent.
Yeah.
And our corners generally are not very good.
Mm-hmm.
That statistic that you alluded to, they just don't look dangerous. Too many of the corners are floated without any pace on them. And his corners were excellent, particularly, I think it was the first one that Lindelof got his head to that Mctominay just managed to not get onto the end of, unfortunately.
Yeah, but Luke Shaw, fantastic performance. I can't deny it. Moving into the midfield, which I thought had a very good game today, especially in the first half. I thought we moved the ball around really well. So we'll start with probably one of the better performers again, Scott McTominay.
Yeah. McTominay, I think, is a divisive character. There are a lot of people that don't really like him. McTominay, in some respects, reminds me somewhat of Darren Fletcher. He's doing the hard graft. What I do like about him is his aggression. And physically, he's a big lad. He actually got onto the end of some of the crosses that City put in. And in a game where City have got aggression in midfield with guys like Fernandinho and Rodri, you need some aggression to counter them. So I thought he was pretty good. If I could criticize him for one thing, not enough balls going forward. He often gets the ball and he plays it backwards and long balls backwards. I'd like to see, but that might be the instruction of his manager, that he was solid on the night. I'll give him a 7 on the night.
Yeah, I agree with you, 7 as well. He was very, very, what's the word? He marshaled the midfield very well, I thought. He was very solid. He kept his game simple. As you say, a lot of the passes were backwards, but I think at times it was needed. At times he should have really pushed forward a little bit more. He had space in the midfield because he didn't really press us today. So he could have gone forward. So a 7 from me. Said this in the match reaction, but Karthik didn't pick it up. What was that? I think it was about, Scott without Fred is like Rio without Vidic. I think that's a very good point. They complement each other very, very well.
Yeah, good point.
Jacob says, McTominay had some better moments today for sure, but I still don't think he's good enough for us long term. Yeah, and I'll agree with you on that, saying that if it's not to say that McTominay should be sold, but I've always said that if a player like McTominay becomes your rotation player, you've done something well in your recruitment, and that's perfectly fine.
I agree.
Okay. He drops into defence when needed. Yeah, he did that today as well. So, good performance from McTominay, 7 out of 10 from both of us. Let us know if you agree. Who came next then? Fred, what did you make of him?
Well, Fred started the game very well, and then he got that knock when De Bruyne clattered into him. And in fact, I thought that initially I thought he'd be subbed because he looked like he was in a bit of trouble. And to me, it subdued him somewhat over the rest of the game. He popped up here and there. He was neat. He was tidy. I'd like to see him going forward a bit more often. But again, I think that we'll talk about the manager later, but I think that there were instructions not to venture too far forward. City are very strong in the midfield, and I think we've got to praise our midfield generally because City have got a very powerful midfield, but they played in a similar type of midfield with two holding midfielders plus De Bruyne. So I couldn't quite decide whether I'd give Fred a 6 or a 7, but I thought that his two other midfield partners played better than he did, so I'll give him a 6 on the night.
Yeah, I have to agree with you, 6, because I think the knock affected his game. We lost a lot of energy from him, and I was wondering why we didn't make the change. I saw Matic warming up, and then I thought, well, that's the wrong change. I don't want that to happen. And then we just kept him on, and he seemed to get going and really keep his game simple, but not really do what he usually does, which is get himself about the pitch. Whether that was because of tactical setup, being asked to drop off a little bit, I don't know. But yeah, a 6 from me. Let's see what the comments are saying. Greb says 7. Brown Knight says 8. Very lenient. Fred Woodward says Fred is vital to our midfield. We rely on his mobility at times, but he needs to improve his final ball. Definitely, but not necessarily the final ball, because Fred's position isn't really in the final third. So maybe he doesn't really need to improve that. Maybe he needs to improve how his simple passes sometimes are the ones that don't really find his target. But yeah, Greb makes a good point. His pressing was missing, and that comes from the knock. That comes from the knock. We're about to rate Paul Pogba. This is going to have some interesting comments. So what I want you all to do, whoever's watching right now, I want you to like the video first. If you're watching it on a platform that is not YouTube, head over to YouTube, subscribe to All for United, like the video there, and share the link right now, because we're about to rate Paul Pogba's performance, and this should have some interesting opinions. Barry, number 1, should he have started? Number 2, what did you make of his performance?
Yes, he should have started. As long as he's on United's books, no matter what his agent is saying, you got to put your best players in, and he was needed on the night. And I thought he had a good game on the night. What I liked about him is he wasn't too defensive tonight, although he did at times put in a few good tackles, but he shielded the ball well. And I think that he and De Bruyne kind of neutralized one another this evening. He made a couple of good through balls, nothing spectacular, but he did the job tonight. And I thought he was effective in midfield. He would not be my man of the match. As I said, Luke Shaw was my man of the match. I'd give him a 7 as well.
Yeah, I'm going to give him a 9, because I thought he was our man of the match. I think it was him and Luke Shaw. But for me, watching Pogba, I think that's one of the best games I've seen him play in a long time now. I know that's a very big thing to say, but I thought the role suited him. He had a bit of freedom to move in from the left. He was on the ball. He kept his game simple. He played some very good passes, very good 1-2s. He was working well defensively, and I thought, this is Paul.
Oh dear. Hello.
Am I back? The internet just went there.
Yeah, sorry. Was that you or me, Karthik?
That was me. That was me. No worries. Don't worry, comments. I am back. Where was I when you lost me?
You were waxing lyrical about Paul Pogba getting 9 out of 10.
Yeah. I thought he was very good today. I thought this was the Paul Pogba we know. And
Karthik, for me, for a guy to get 9 out of 10 from midfield, he either has to score a screaming goal, he either has to create the winning goal, he has to do more than that. I have to say, I think you're being way too lenient on there.
Potentially.
I do think he had a very good game, and he's divisive as always. And one of his better games in recent times for sure. Definitely agree with you on that.
Fair enough.
Yes.
Fair enough.
Fred Woodward is spot on. Our midfield performed well within themselves, I guess.
So comments, let us know. What did you make of Paul Pogba's performance? Let's have a look. 6 from Greb. Okay, maybe I am being a bit too lenient. Let us know. Yeah. Average game by Pogba better than his previous disasters. I suppose that's a good way of putting it. said it before. He's played in a position I've never seen him play for United before. Yeah, he's not played there for United. I think he might have played it once, but not regularly enough. He's played in that position for Juventus, though. So no excuses there. I'll give him a 6. 6 seems to be the popular opinion here. No one who isn't a goalkeeper should be getting a 9 in a 0-0 draw.
Agreed.
Fair. Maybe I am being a bit too lenient there. Next one then, Bruno.
Yeah. By his standards, Bruno had a very poor game for us tonight. I think City set out to neutralise him. Every time he got the ball, there were 2 players marking him. Didn't have much of an effect on the game, and I thought there was quite generally a disconnect between the midfield and the front runners. I give Bruno tonight a 5.
A 5, really?
Yeah.
Do you think that had anything to do with the system?
Yes.
Because he did seem to be in a more wider position than usual.
He was all over the pitch. That is one thing. You saw him wide left, wide right. But I think that's because he was also going to look for the ball quite a lot. Yeah,
potentially. It seemed as if those two, Pogba and Bruno, seemed to have a bit more of a free role. So that's what caused them to move around. And yeah, you're right. I think Bruno, he tried a lot of good things, but it wasn't his best game today. And he had a similar game to De Bruyne, who I think that's no coincidence in the kind of game it was.
Yeah, De Bruyne, by his standards, was very, I'm delighted to say, was very poor tonight.
Yep, I'll give him a 5. I thought nothing special from Bruno today. Let's see what we've got here. Greb's giving him a 7 because he created a couple of chances, I suppose. Bruno a 6. Tried too hard to do everything himself today. And I think that's the case whenever we're struggling in a game. Bruno seems to try and take it.
He doesn't hide away. He's always ready to try something.
Daniel Brent, who seems to be a new name to these player rating shows, so welcome to the party, Daniel Brent. He says Bruno 7, slightly off, but still tried the passes and shots. City did try to neutralise him with their DMs. Yeah, the Rodri and Fernandinho that was designed to stop the attacking players, so they did that. Jacob's also here. He says Bruno missed some key passes at times, but he didn't make any bad errors as such. 6 for me. Fred's agreeing with you. They doubled up on him early on. I think our lack of movement up front also hinders him somewhat. When Cavani is back, it will benefit him. Yeah, movement up front from Cavani plays a big part in what Bruno does. Yes, Jacob, Cavani is injured. He was back in training this week, but not completely ready to start today. I assume he will feature in the next game. That brings us to the forwards then. Mason Greenwood.
Again, by Mason's standards, not a great game. He didn't get, he didn't get good service. That's the problem. So do we criticize him for that? Because he really didn't get much in the way of opportunities. Decision-making, 1 or 2 occasions. Mason, when he gets the ball, he knows only one thing. He goes for goal. I love him as a player. I think he's a wonderful player. But by his standards, not a good game tonight. But not his fault entirely because he was starved of the ball. I'll give him 5 as well.
I'm saying, before I speak about Greenwood, Jacob, what are you talking about? What other Jacob? I only see one. I don't know. Apparently he stalks him on United channels. I don't know what he's talking about. Anyway, yeah, Mason, not a great game from him. And as you say, he didn't really get enough supply. And I think that's been a case in the last 2 games. Even at Leipzig, he wasn't really involved. Is it the system, do you think? Because Mark put forward in the match reaction that he doesn't think Rashford and Greenwood work well together as a 2. Do you think he works better as a 3 on the right or in the middle, not as part of a 2?
Yes. When they're playing as a 2, they're quite far apart from one another. They're running down their respective channels and they need service. That's the whole point.
Yeah.
And when you're playing with the 2 up front, when you get the ball forward, you don't have much support in the box. That's the problem. So I think he plays better in a 3. I think that Mason ultimately will become our number 9. I think that is where he will find himself. But he's certainly good coming off the right, but in a 3.
Okay, let's see what the comments are saying. By the way, when I look at my phone, I'm not being rude. I'm just live tweeting to get more viewers in. If you don't want me to be doing that, comments, share the video, get your friends in. Okay, let's have a look at what they're saying. Mason 4 says Brown Knight. 5 says Greb. It seems to be quite low ratings for Greenwood. Did I give him a rating? No, I didn't. No. I'll give him a 4. I didn't think. No, that's harsh. I'll give him a 5 because again, there is a point because you didn't get enough supply. Daniel Brent again says 5. There's an argument going on in the comments between two Jacob O'Connors, OCs. Look at my profile with the J. He has a generic body head as his picture, and there's the other Jacob. It's Jacobception going on in the comments. What is going on? Anyway, the more Jacobs, the better because there's more viewers. Greenwood 5 movement wasn't quite clever enough. Maybe, or could you say it wasn't the midfielders finding him? It's an argument to be had there. Marcus Rashford.
Not one of Marcus's best games. Unfortunately, marginally offside. He was offsides. Would have won us the penalty. Bruno would have scored. We would have won 1-0. It would have been a bit of a steal, but no arguments on that. And again, I didn't think that Marcus had much service again tonight. He was a bit better than Mason, so I guess I've got to give him a 6, although I probably would have gone for 5 initially, but he was a bit better than Greenwood. I'll give him a 6.
Yeah, I'll go with the 5 again because I thought it would be harsh to mark either of them too low because in this kind of game, they're not going to be able to do a lot. I thought Marcus went a little bit quiet at times. The game sort of happened around him rather than... I mean, for both of them, it wasn't really their game, and that's what frustrates me. Most of our chances came from our midfielders rather than our strikers, which tells you a lot about what kind of game is going on. But yeah, I'll give him a 5.
Yeah, I can't recall much at all, if at all, balls being played over the City defence for them to run onto, or balls played through the City defence for them to run onto. I think the City defence had a pretty easy game. Definitely,
because they showed us a lot of respect. They sat off us, and they were there for the taking. They did give us a few chances to get in behind, and I don't think we did it enough.
Yeah, I was just going to say we didn't get behind them often enough at all.
Especially against people like John Stones, who maybe he's come back into favour with Pep, but he's not as good a defender as Laporte.
He made a couple of errors that he got away with, Stones.
Yeah, and that was the key theme of the game, not taking advantage of them making errors. Brown Knight says Marcus 5. Rashford should know his pace, a start fraction. Yeah, this is a good point. I've seen a lot of tweets that say Marcus is always offside. But that happens when you have so much pace. He'll learn when to time his runs. Now, obviously, it's a basic thing that he should know, but in a Premier League game, it's going to be tough. But yeah, he does need to time his run a little bit better, and I'm sure that'll get fixed in training. That's not something that's impossible to fix. Rashi 6 tends to hold the ball a touch too long at times. Movement a little better than Mason.
I agree with that.
I don't think Rashford is a natural striker. Hits off the ball movement isn't great, and he isn't clinical enough, especially when he has time to think. Instinctively, he's good. Good point. Very good point.
Yeah,
I think he's better off the left.
Yes, the amount of times also we've seen Marcus one-on-one with the keeper.
Yeah,
he tends to blast it rather than dink it. But spontaneity is the name of his game. He's electric.
Yeah, definitely. And of course, United only made, was it one sub in the end? Who came on? Why can't I remember who came on?
Martial was the only sub.
There we go, Anthony Martial. I mean, this will tell you something about the rating he's about to get. But Martial, what did you make of him when he came on? Did he do anything?
Well, he came. I mean, Martial stood there waiting to come on for about 7 or 8 minutes.
Yeah,
and the ball didn't come his way, so he actually did nothing during the game. I don't even know that we can rate him. If I had to rate him on the night, I mean, it would be a 4. But the ball just didn't come near him. He didn't get opportunity. I was expecting Ollie to bring on Donny on the 88th minute.
Yeah. With Martial, I think you just give him a 5.
Yeah, fair enough.
Have we just received? Well, I think we've just received. Is that a super chat? I don't know. I've never seen one on the platform that we're using right now. I'll have to double check on the YouTube channel, but that's surely not. Not a super chat, surely not. We'll confirm that in a minute. Brown Knights hit the nail on the head. Not applicable.
Yeah.
Yeah, not applicable. Manager rating then.
It's a tough one. He set out much like we thought. We thought we'd have two holding midfielders. I think on the one hand, defensively he got things correct, but offensively he didn't get things correct at all. A real lack of ambition. I would like to have seen him introduce probably Donny in that second half, be a little bit more attack-minded. But you could see that Guardiola approached the game in similar manner. He also only made one substitution. But for me, I don't know. I just never know what we're going to get. And if we don't get what we want, is it because the players aren't doing well? Is it because the coaching hasn't been good? I'm not sure. So I'm going to be probably a little bit harsh, but I'm going to give Ollie on the night, give him a 6.
Yeah, I don't think he deserves too low. I think anything below a 5 would be harsh. I'd give him a 6 because I thought in the first half we got it spot on, and then when we saw that we had a chance to go and attack them, we didn't really make that change. Now, a lot of the people have been saying, why didn't Van de Beek come on? Well, in my opinion, we didn't bring him on because if we did, it would have to be for Fred because Mctominay was playing too good to come on, and Pogba was playing too good to come on, and Bruno, obviously, we could take him off, but do you really want to take Bruno off in a game like this? No, you don't. So to take Fred off would upset the balance of the midfield, and he couldn't really find anyone else to take off that would change things. So I can understand him not making that change, but I can understand the criticism that he should have made the change earlier, and that's probably what's cost us in the end. And Barry jokes that he expected Van de Beek to come on in the 80th minute, but knowing Ollie, that's probably when he would have brought him on. So I'm going to give him a 6. Did you give him a 6 as well?
Yes.
Okay, and to wrap it up then, top 3 performers, if you can remember your numbers. If not, just go off the eye test. So Luke Shaw was your man of the match. Who goes second and third then?
Luke Shaw would have been my man of the match.
Yeah.
Probably second I would have given to Pogba.
Yeah.
Because he got a 7 as well. And third I would have given, in this instance, to Lindelof.
Those are exactly my 3, except Pogba first. Comments get involved, let us know. Let's see. Brown Knight says, Shaw, Big Mac. I'm assuming that's Harry. No, it's going to be Scott McTominay. What a strange little misread that was. And Aaron Wan-Bissaka. Wan-Bissaka, you know, that's a one that we haven't really talked about as being in the top 3. There's a war of Jacobs going on, which I think is more interesting than the derby today, because there's one that's been following us for 2 to 3 months, and there's another one that's giving us super chats and claiming that he's also Jacob. It's a very strange time. That's might be one to keep an eye on. Greb says Shaw, Lindelof, and Maguire, all 3 defenders, which tells you something about the game, doesn't it? Man of the match was McTominay from Jacob. Jacob 1, we'll call you. We'll call the other one Jacob 2. Fred Woodward says, Aaron Wan-Bissaka always pocket Sterling. Apart from the one time he got away from him. There was one instance in the first half.
I like that. There's often a curse of the commentator. I was a bit worried with the commentator saying that neither Sterling nor Jesus have ever scored against United, because normally when they say that, they then score in that game. But fortunately, that record has been maintained.
Yep. Well, seeing as you went in the match reaction, we've come to the end of the player ratings show. So, guys, let us know what you thought of our ratings. What did you think of the game itself? Seeing as Barry wasn't on the post-match reaction, Barry, what did you make of the game? Final thoughts?
Well, the game was a damp squib, to be honest. It never got going. Respect shown to each team showed the other team a lot of respect. Normally in a game like this, which is a game full of passion, this is a type of game where you really miss the fans being in the stadium. Because, I mean, I think I'm right in saying there were only 2 bookings in the entire game. I might be wrong. And both respective captains got booked on the day. Fernandinho is a done deal. Fernandinho gets booked every game. Him and Lamela, to me, are the 2 dirtiest players in the Premier League. and he always gets a booking. Having said that, I wouldn't mind having him in my team, I can tell you. But, City showed us a lot of respect. I think City were a bit perturbed by the fact that we'd beaten them so many times last season. And you could see that their attack-minded midfielders, Foden, Bernardo Silva, didn't get a look in on the day, didn't bring them on. I was a bit worried when I saw them limbering up. I thought if they were introduced, we might have a bit of a problem because they would have been more of a handful. But of course, had they introduced them, they might have left themselves exposed at the back. It was kind of a game like a chess game that ended in a stalemate, to be honest. But after our defensive frailties of recent games, the thing that impressed me the most tonight is that we started the game well. We've started games very badly in the last few weeks. So that was a big plus. And just the defense looked a lot more solid. Another thing that I noted with interest is City didn't have many corners. When they did, they put no pressure on the goalkeeper. Their players were all standing on the edge of the box. If I'm the opposition, I'll crowd our goalkeeper for those. And I was happy with De Gea's performance tonight. I thought he looked a lot more assured. My heart skips a beat or two when we try and play the ball out of defence. It's a dangerous game to play, although we weren't caught out tonight, and we managed to do it reasonably well on a couple of occasions. But we look a little bit shaky doing that, but clearly that's an instruction, and that's an instruction that I think goes across the Premier League, probably with the exception of Burnley. But we kind of, we find ourselves playing out of defence. And listening to the pundits, the kind of buzzword all the time or the buzz phrase is the balance of the team. And we just don't seem to be striking up the right balance. When we have two holding midfielders, we're a bit frail going forward. When we have one holding midfielder, we're frail at the back. So this still needs to be worked on. What is the best formation? And I think in terms of that, you can't only have one formation. You've got to be fluid in terms of how you approach these things. You need to be able to adapt during the course of the game, be it with your substitutes or be it with the guys that are on the field. But I think in a nutshell, defensively, an excellent performance. Offensively, not a good performance because a distinct lack of ambition with respect to that.
Before I give my closing thoughts, we'll have a last look at the comments. This Jacob, I'm going to call you Jacob 1, and I do believe you. You are the real Jacob. I'm calling the other one Jacob 2 because I don't want to call him a fraud. Brown Knights in the comments telling him that he's a celebrity. So this is all a bit mad. I like this comment. I'm not here to make trouble, just here to enjoy the stream. Yeah, enjoy the stream. Make sure to like it. But yeah, that brings us to the end of the show. Closing thoughts from me. You've already heard them on the match reaction, but I felt that we could have won the game today. I thought the first half, we did well. We played some good stuff. Midfield played very well. I thought we balanced it. I thought the tactics were spot on. The second half, I thought we should have gone for them, and we didn't. We continued to sit off them. We both showed each other respect, and in the end, we both got a point. And at the end of the day, in the long run, we will all probably look at this and go, you know what, City at home, 0-0 draw, 1 point, good point. Hopefully, we're in that situation to say that. But tonight, it will be a case of we should have won that game because they were there for the taking. But yeah, thank you for joining us for the Player Rating Show. A third new guest on the Player Rating Show. Well, I wonder when I'll get a constant show with someone. I just wonder when. I mean, we're going to have to start doing guest ratings at this point. Rate each guest that comes on this show. But yeah, make sure to like the video because this is a new show, of course. And it looks like a separate audience for it. So thanks for joining us. And as Daniel Brent says, I'll get into it in a minute where we are in the league. But thanks for joining us. Thanks for showing us support on this show. This has been the match day package from All for United. I hope you've all enjoyed it. It's been put together, well, by all of us, really. But I'm usually behind organising it. I'm sure we'll be back this week with more previews, more podcasts, more Man United women's content. So make sure to stick around. And as the comments will rightly say, we are still within touch of the top four, still within touch of the top of the league, and that title race might still be on. See you in a bit.